I learned the first rule at Glacier Ridge. Look out the day they handed me the keys. If you hear footsteps on the stairs between 1 a.m. and 1:30 a.m., do not look out the windows and do not open the door, no matter who you think it is. I laughed when I read it. Then I worked my first month alone on that tower in the mountains of northwest Montana and realized the rules were not a joke, because those footsteps are very real. And I broke one of the rules for a friend. Now the forest has followed me home to the boy in the lake. My name is Daniel. I was 26 that summer, a grad student who thought a fire lookout job would be an easy way to pay off loans and finish my thesis. The job sounded perfect. Live alone in a glass cabin on top of a ridge. Watch for smoke, log the weather, read books, hike on days off, get paid for it. My mom cried when I told her I would be out of cell range for months. My sister Mia told me to bring back cryptid photos for her true crime group. I promised all of them it was safe. It was a government tower, I told them. People had done this for decades. That is how I met Ranger Dale Hutchins. He was broad-shouldered, sun-worn, and had a mustache that looked like it had its own opinions. We shook hands outside a small district office in a dusty town near the forest. "You Dan?" he asked. "Yeah, Daniel Blake." He nodded like that passed some invisible test. Inside, he ran through the usual training: fire behavior, radio procedures, what to do if lightning hit, what to do if we saw smoke, what to do if we did not. It was all normal. Then he handed me a sheet of paper, and his tone changed. "Last thing," he said, "tower rules." I expected boring safety rules. Instead, I read a list that looked like it belonged in a campfire story. Rule 1. Always be inside the cab with the door locked from 12:45 a.m. to 1:45 a.m. Rule 2. If you hear footsteps on the stairs between 1 a.m. and 1:30 a.m., do not look out the windows and do not open the door, no matter who you think it is. Rule 3. If the radio repeats what you just said in your own voice, turn it off immediately and leave it off until sunrise. Rule 4. Do not count the trees along the north slope after dark. If you lose track, stay away from the windows until dawn. Rule 5. If you see a light moving in the forest that does not match a star, aircraft, or known vehicle, do not track it with binoculars. Note it and ignore it. Rule 6. If you wake up facing the wrong direction, do not move or speak until the sun is above the horizon. Rule 7. Do not invite anyone to stay the night in the tower. Day visits only. Rule 8. If you hear knocking on the glass that does not line up with footsteps on the stairs, do not acknowledge it. Do not match the pattern. Rule 9. If you see someone you recognize below the tower at night, do not let them in unless they can tell you the agreed phrase for the week. Set a new phrase with your supervisor every Monday. Rule 10. If you must use the bathroom between midnight and sunrise, use the bucket inside. Rule 11. If you break any of the above rules, call it in to the district office at first light. At the bottom, someone had scrawled one more line in pen. Above all, do not be looking out any window at 1:13 a.m. I looked up, expecting Dale to grin. He did not. These rules are not optional, he said. You follow them, you go home in the fall. You break them, you might still go home. But you will not like what you bring with you. Understood. Something in my chest tightened. Is this a local superstition thing? I asked. He stared at me for a long moment. Call it risk management, he said. The forest does what it does. We learned to work around it. 2 days later, a helicopter dropped me and a season's worth of supplies on Glacier Ridge. The tower was a small cabin of glass and wood perched on legs above the tree line. A narrow catwalk wrapped around it like a porch. A steep staircase led up from the ground. An outhouse sat downhill, but the bucket inside was clearly meant to be used. Inside, the place was simple. A small bunk, a stove, maps, a logbook, a radio. And in the middle, the fire finder used to mark the direction of smoke. The first week was routine. I woke with the sun, logged weather, scanned the forest with binoculars, and checked in by radio. My only real company was Nate, the other rookie lookout on a nearby ridge. We could not see each other's towers, but we talked every day. You see any ghosts yet? Nate asked on my third night. Just a squirrel that thinks he owns the catwalk, I said. What about the footsteps? He asked. You hear anybody on your stairs? Nothing. He laughed. It's hazing, ranger tradition, words on paper. I laughed with him, but the rule sheet was taped to my wall, and the line about 1:13 a.m. felt like it watched me back. Every night at 12:45 a.m., I locked the hatch, locked the door, checked the windows, and lay on my bunk with my back to the glass. I told myself I was doing it for Dale, not because I believed it. The 8th night was hot and still. A dry thunderstorm rolled through before midnight, all lightning and no rain. Afterward, the tower felt like an oven. At about 12:43 a.m., I almost cracked a window just to breathe. Then I remembered Dale's face. Risk management. I locked everything. At 12:45 a.m., I turned my back to the windows and tried to sleep. I was drifting off when the first step creaked. It came from below, where the staircase disappeared into darkness. Another step, then another. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Not wind, not an animal scrambling, not a bear clumsily scraping. These were measured footsteps climbing the stairs to my tower. I checked the time. 1:07 a.m. Rule 2 ran through my head like a siren. Do not look. Do not open the door. The footsteps kept climbing. They stopped just below the hatch. Then there was a silence that felt like something listening. My body begged me to roll over and peek. I did not. At 1:13 a.m., the glass around me suddenly felt too thin. I lay completely still, jaw clenched, waiting for the bolt to rattle, waiting for the hatch to lift, waiting for anything. Nothing happened. At about 1:16 a.m., the footsteps began again. This time they went down. Step by step, they descended until the final creak faded into the forest. At first light, I radioed Dale and told him I had followed Rule 2. He did not sound surprised. Log it, he said. Time, weather, details. Any Rule 2 event you survive and report is a good day. That word, survive, stuck with me. After that, the footsteps came sometimes, and not others. Always between 1 a.m. and 1:30 a.m., always slow. Always stopping at the hatch like something waiting for me to move. I never looked. But the footsteps were not the only thing. One afternoon, I keyed my radio and called Nate. Glacier Ridge to Moosaback, radio check. Static. I tried again. Glacier Ridge to Moosaback, radio check. And then my own voice came back through the speaker, perfectly repeated, like an echo from a deep well. Glacier Ridge to Mooseback, radio check. Rule 3. I shut the radio off with shaking fingers and did not turn it on again until sunrise. Dale called me the next morning, already knowing what happened. "You follow Rule 3?" he asked. "Yes." "Good," he said. "Log it." Weeks passed. The tower became both sanctuary and trap. I loved the mornings, the way the valley looked like an ocean of green, the way hawks circled at eye level, the way the world felt far away. But at night, the forest felt like it was paying attention to me. Once near dawn, I woke up standing at the east window. My face was inches from the glass, hands pressed on the sill, mouth slightly open as if I had been about to speak. I had no memory of getting out of bed. Outside, the woods were dim and blue with pre-dawn light. Rule 6 slammed into my mind. If you wake up facing the wrong direction, do not move or speak until the sun is above the horizon. So I froze. I stared at my reflection in the glass, and in the shadows between the trees, something pale moved. Not fast, not obvious. It slid between trunks at the exact pace of the wind-shifting branches, like it wanted to be mistaken for the forest itself. It looked tall, too tall. I could not make out its face. I could not even tell if it had one. I did not move. I did not speak. When the sun finally crested the ridge, the pale shape was gone, and birds began singing as if nothing had happened. My legs gave out, and I slid to the floor shaking. I did not log that one. I told myself it was stress, a trick of low light and lack of sleep. Nate stayed skeptical. "I'm bored," he said one day. "If there's something weird, I want to know what it is. Not just cower and pretend rules fix it." He said that like rules were superstition. I started to suspect the rules were not meant to fix anything. They were meant to keep something from getting closer. Near the end of July, Dale called me with a story about a previous lookout who had cracked the hatch during the footsteps. She said something was already on the other side, he told me. Waiting, she did not see its face, just a hand. He described too many joints, fingers too long, skin pale like it never saw sun. "Don't be that somebody," he said. I promised I would not. 2 nights later, Nate broke the rules. A few minutes before 1 a.m., he radioed me. "I'm going to do an experiment," he said. My stomach turned cold. He wanted to crack his hatch open when the footsteps came, just enough to see. He called it data, scientist's honor. I begged him not to. He laughed and told me to listen and report what I heard. At 1:03 a.m., the footsteps started on my stairs. Slow, heavy, coming up. I whispered into the radio that they were climbing. Nate went quiet, then said, "I see something." He said it was pale and tall near the base of my tower. The footsteps reached the top and stopped at my hatch. The metal ring handle on the hatch rattled softly, like something testing it. Then Nate said, "I'm going to crack my hatch now." I told him no. He did it anyway. I heard the faint squeal of hinges through the radio. Then Nate's voice cut off mid-sentence. Not into static, into a loop. His last words repeated in his own voice, chopped and replayed like a broken recording. Rule 3. I shut off my radio immediately. The tower felt like it had dropped off the world. Then something tapped on the glass behind me. 3 gentle taps. The tapping did not match footsteps on the stairs. Rule 8. Do not acknowledge it. Do not match the pattern. I squeezed my eyes shut and sat on my hands. The tapping moved, sliding around the cabin like a fingernail tracing the panes, circling once, then again. At 1:13 a.m., all tapping stopped. The tower went silent, and then something spoke from below the floorboards. Not a normal voice, a sound that tried to be words. Diane. My blood went ice cold. No one used that name up there, except Nate and Dale. Diane, it said again, closer to human, like practice was helping. Open. I did not move. I did not breathe. Eventually, the tower creaked again as the wind picked up. The footsteps went down the stairs. I sat frozen until dawn. When I turned the radio back on, Dale was already calling Nate with no reply. Then he called me. "Did you have contact with Musabek last night?" he asked. I told him everything. The experiment, the looped voice, The moment I shut my radio off, Dale's voice went flat. Stay put, log everything. Do not attempt to reach Mooseback. Later that morning, a helicopter flew to Nate's Ridge. It hovered for a long time, circling. Then it returned to town. 2 days later, Dale hiked to my tower with another ranger and a deputy. He looked older than before. He told me Nate's tower door was open. The hatch was half torn off. There was blood, scratches in the wood like someone had tried to rip it loose from the inside. No sign of Nate. No tracks leaving the clearing. Dale stared out over the trees and spoke quietly, like he hated the words. The tower is like a border, he said. We can see it there. It can almost get a hand on us. But not quite. Not if we keep the rules. And if we do, I asked. He did not answer. That afternoon, they pulled me off the ridge, 8 miles down to the road, back to town, debriefing under fluorescent lights. A man in a suit asked if it could have been a bear. I asked if bears tore hatches from the inside. No one laughed. After a few days, I went back to the city. I thought leaving the mountains would end it. City nights had different sounds. Sirens, cars, neighbors, the thin walls of my apartment building. For a while, I almost slept. Then, 3 weeks after I came home, I woke up standing at my apartment window, face inches from the glass, hands on the sill, the same posture as the tower. I checked the time. 1:09 a.m. I stumbled back from the window, shaking, telling myself it was habit. Leftover lookout reflex. The next night, I forced myself to stay awake. I told myself if I was conscious, I could not sleepwalk. At 1:03 a.m., the hallway floor outside my door creaked. Old building, I told myself. Neighbors. Then another creak. Then another. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Exactly like the stairs in the tower. I stared at my door. There were only a few stairs in my building, but the footsteps lasted far longer than they should have, as if whatever was walking out there had more distance than the hallway could contain. They stopped at my door. A dragging sound traced up the wood, low to high, like fingernails learning the grain. Then 3 gentle taps. My phone lit up beside me. 1:13 a.m. The tapping stopped. From the hallway, through plaster and distance, something shaped my name again. Diane. It sounded closer to human now. Closer to how my sister said it when she was annoyed. Closer to how my mother said it when she was worried. It was not them. Every instinct screamed at me to open the door, to check the peephole, to make sure nobody I loved was out there needing help. But the rules lined up in my mind like a wall. Do not look. Do not open. No matter who you think it is. I stayed on the bed until dawn. I did not call the landlord. I did not call the police. What would I say? Instead, I added a new rule to my private list. If something from another place learns to knock on your door at 1:13 a.m., do not open it. No matter who you think it is. I have not answered. Not yet. But sometimes, when the city is quiet and the air feels too still, I swear I can hear wind moving in trees that are not there. And under it, very faint, the echo of wooden steps, and a voice that is getting better at sounding like mine.